Let me start with a bold truth. And that bold truth is that you already are a brand.
When we look around us, the brands that have most likely impacted us the most are brands that were born out of purpose. It makes life so much simpler when you are able to live a purpose and align your brand to it.
Welcome to UPPA Conversations, Unleash Purpose and Prosperity in Africa, where we explore how you and I can help shift Africa from poverty to prosperity, one person, one family, and one community at a time.
So we started with talking about branding, and what we want to do is to help you unleash your brand so that you can live your purpose with impact. Let me start with a bold truth. And that bold truth is that you already are a brand. You are fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And wherever you are, you bring with you an impression in people's hearts and in people's minds. Therefore, you already are a brand. What is a brand? A brand is defined by Kapferer as the sum of all tangible and intangible elements that make up the identity, value proposition, and perceived reputation of an organization, product, or individual in the minds of stakeholders. We need to underline that because a brand exists in the mind of those that you engage with. Now, listen to what Jeff Bezos says. Jeff Bezos says your brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. That is your brand. So that is what we are talking about today. The question is, are you building your brand with intentionality? Are you building it consciously, or are you living it by chance? That is what we would like you to take today. So, what people experience when they encounter you is your brand. What they think and feel when they are with you, when they think of your name, that is your brand. The energy you bring into a room, that is your brand. The problems that you help to solve, the clarity of your voice, your brand speaks. And it is created by the consistency that you bring in your character as you live out your life. That is your brand. So it's not just logos and business cards and websites and all of that. No, it is the impression that you make on others. It is about how memorable and how impactful you are. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
There are two important days in anyone's life. The first one is when you were born, and the second one is when you discovered why you were born, which is your purpose. And so I do commend you to really do your best to define and clarify and articulate yours in a way that makes sense to you. Folks, today we're gonna be hearing from Darren August, who's a best-selling author, a publisher in South Africa, one of South Africa's most foremost self-publishing coaches. And as I said, as somebody who's already published 7 books now, you can never stop learning, you can never stop growing. So Darren, as I said, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'd really love to work with you and get your support and, of course, your expertise towards making the most of my next book. But it's not about me. I'm just saying, I've seen the work you've done, brilliant, and congratulations on the work that you're also doing with Nomvuyo. Again, more about Darren. With nearly a decade of experience in the industry, Darren has guided countless aspiring authors to turn their writing dreams into reality. His passion, expertise, have really done amazing work and helped many people move their lives forward, their careers as well, and of course their brand. And as the founder of Inspired Publishing, Darren has built a community of ambitious authors committed to making an impact with their words. His strategic insights, practical advice, and motivational guidance empowers writers from all backgrounds to reach their full potential. And I hope that some of you on today's call will be part of that community going forward. And with that said, Darren, over to you.
KK, thank you so much. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Can I just say how excited I am to be in this virtual room with everybody? It blows my mind to think that we have people, and a Saturday morning is so expensive, and to see people literally give up a couple of hours on a Saturday morning to come and to make our businesses better, to be better people is just so inspiring. And I can assure you all, I would be nowhere else right now than right here in this room with every single one of you. And thank you so much, Nomvuyo, for just the opportunity to come and talk and share and learn together. And also so encouraging to see some familiar names in the chat. I'm seeing some authors I've worked with. I'm seeing Portia, who I used to do a couple of webinars with for years. And so it really is already just such an inspiring room, and I'm excited to be part of it.
I am too. I am so excited as well. And I can tell you one of the people is Masha, who is so active in the inspiring, in the author accelerator. Welcome. Guys, let me tell you about this gentleman. When the decision had been made that I am authoring, and I was looking for an author, a publisher. And the first thing he asked was, how can I help you? That was his first question. And remember, that's the question that the prophet asked the widow with oil. He listened. Well, first he started by listening, I'm looking for them, I'm looking for this and this and this and this and this. And then he said, okay, how can I help you? And when he said that, I knew I was at home. Thank you, Darren. You've made my journey very easy.
Thank you.
It was smooth. You were there holding hands with me all the way.
It's an absolute pleasure. And let me just say as well, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. And I'm so proud just of how you have literally stepped up and owned this message of Afriternergy.
Thank you. But before we go to Afriternergy, I just want to talk a little bit about yourself. What inspired you to do what you are doing as a publishing author? What inspired you?
So a couple of things. I love to say that my journey in what I'm doing now really started about 12, 13 years ago, shortly after we got married. We had a beautiful wedding, one of those weddings that get lots of likes and shares on social media for a couple of days. But then about 6 months into marriage, we hit a little bit of a stumbling block because we found ourselves in a position where we were dead broke. I often say that we were so broke we couldn't even make love. My wife and I would lay in bed some nights and just hold hands and cry because it was that bad, and we couldn't even think about bringing a child into our family at that time. And there was one particular incident where we had no idea how my wife would go to work the next day. And I almost feel like that was our moment of that resonates with the story of the oil lady. We had no idea how she would get to work the next day. And I made a pact with her the next day. And I said, if things don't change in my business by April, I'll go back and I'll find a job in the corporate world. And April that year, I attended a conference and I got this book idea. And I simply took action. I remember scribbling an entire book idea and an entire strategy on a piece of paper in a conference while people were up on stage speaking about various other topics. I then went to my wife and I said, I've got this idea and I think it could be a game changer for us. Can I have just 6 months to really give it my all? And she said yes. And we have never, ever looked back. And so my first book was birthed 11 years ago now. And literally today, books have become the currency in our home. It blows my mind to think that 11 years later, this book that I wrote and this work that I did still pays us and still funds so many of what you see today. And so obviously, on the back of that, so many people would approach me and ask me, how do you do it? How do you get to experience the success as an author? And that's really how our publishing house and our brand was built, because so many people were just so inspired by what we do. And we'll talk about it. And I know we're gonna talk a little bit about how it all came about. But really, it was just birthed from the desire to inspire people to take action. And here we are now, 10 years, 11 years later, after having started Inspired Publishing. It was our goal to help 3 people every year to write and publish their books. And we would have never dreamed that we would be sitting here almost 10 years into the business, and now close to just over 200 books having been published by us over the last 10 years. And there they are, all of those books on the shelf behind me. It's really something that I'm so proud of, that so many people have trusted us with bringing their dreams to life.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, that story, I mean, there's that part that you have missed out of, the toilet part.
Yes. So, so what happened was, in that particular night where we didn't know how my wife would get to work, I started crying, but I didn't want to upset my wife. And so I rolled out of bed, went to the bathroom, and as I started rolling off a piece of toilet paper to wipe my tears, I heard this voice in my head say, you can't even afford to cry in this toilet paper right now because you're going to need it tomorrow. And that was really one of the lowest points in my life. I felt so defeated, but I was faced with questions, internal questions that helped me move it along. And so those questions were, well, where can you start? Well, what's in your hand? Well, what can you do to turn the situation around? And really, by just digging deep, I really believe that all of us, if we go through that process, the answers are already there.
And that is an Afriternergy story, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
That's an Afriternergy story, you know, that part where poverty changes to prosperity. There is that part, you know, I often say that there is that moment where she starts by saying, I have nothing. Immediately says, just a little bit of oil. And that's a shift.
Yeah.
That's a shift.
Absolutely. I think so many times we don't recognize what's in our hand, you know?
Yes.
And so I would encourage you, if you're on this call today, if somebody else isn't asking you that question, ask it to yourself. Ask it to yourself in those low, deep, dark moments. It's a question that you can come back to so often. What's in my hand? And I promise you, I have seen time and time again how that is such a powerful question that can just resurrect something. It can just rebuild momentum. It can just move you forward once again. It's one of those questions that never gets stale. It never gets old. And when you answer it, you will always find something that can move you forward.
Yes, and I suppose that's why we are coaches, eh? That's
Absolutely.
why we are coaches. Darren, let's speak about branding. You've heard me talk about the P plus 7 V's. What are your thoughts there?
I think that's a beautiful framework. I think it's a beautiful framework that you outlined for us. I definitely feel. I think even when we look around us, the brands that have most likely impacted us the most are brands that were born out of purpose. And so for me, it's the most fulfilling thing. It's the most rewarding thing for me to have a brand that is 100% aligned to my purpose. And so for me, it didn't come easy. I had to really go on a journey to discover, well, what is my purpose and how do I bring that across? And so for me personally, I had to go on a journey where I discovered, again, what's in my hand, what can I do? And it's so interesting because after I launched my first book, you know, as an author, you get to have to sign books, you know, and I'm a lazy writer, so I didn't want to write paragraphs, and I've got a terrible handwriting, and I thought, people are not going to read what I'm able to write. And so I would literally just go back to what is the goal of this book? And I would write in every single one of the books that I signed, I would just write, be inspired, and I would sign it. Be inspired, and I would sign it. And it was really just, I almost did it flippantly. And what started happening was, even people who hadn't purchased my book even people who might not have engaged with me, who might have seen me on a television interview or a radio interview, started articulating how they feel after engaging with me, even if it wasn't one-on-one or personally. And people would start expressing, you are so inspiring. I feel so inspired. And all I had to do was look, listen, and pay attention, and then recognize that was actually my brand. I was already living my purpose. And so after doing the deep work, I then really, really had to go back and find out what is my purpose. And for me, I was able to package it into one simple statement. And so my personal purpose statement is to keep dreaming and inspire others to dream. And so for me, everything I do is aligned to that. And so when I get an invitation, Darren, can you show up on a webinar on a Saturday morning? I ask myself, is this an opportunity for me to keep dreaming or inspire others to dream? If the answer is yes, I go all in. All right. When I'm invited to a speaking engagement, I ask myself the question, is this an opportunity to keep dreaming or inspire others to dream? If the answer is yes, I go all in. And so it makes life so much simpler when you are able to live a purpose and align your brand to it.
I really love that. I really, really love that. So I mean, mine as the oil lady is just helping people find their oil, helping them to discover, master, multiply, and unleash their oil. But the end goal is that they must prosper holistically. So, and as just like what I do, purpose is a measure of how I make my choices, how I make my decisions about what to do. You gave me permission to coin the word Afriternergy, and it was a struggle.
My name is Nomvuyo Bengane. I call myself the oil lady. My purpose is to help people discover, master, multiply, and sell their oil. Most people ask me, what is the oil? And I say, the oil is the inner greatness inside each and every individual. Afriternergy. Some say it's a philosophy, some say it's an ideology. But basically, it's a concept that I have created. From the words Africa, maternal, and energy. So we know that Africa is the cradle of humankind. That's where life begins. We also know the maternal energy. It is an energy that is about guiding and mentoring, but it's also an energy that is sort of instinctive. But the most significant thing about maternal energy is sacrificial love. We sacrifice our pleasure now for the future of our children.
I'm just thinking, I get so emotional every time I see that video because of the passion that you express this vision with. It's absolutely amazing. And so it really takes me back to the time when we were working on your book. And so I can't recall the initial title, if it was always Unleash Prosperity in Africa. I know it was around Unleashing Prosperity, but the manuscript was great from the word go. The concept was great from the word go, but it almost felt like the message just wasn't landing. And so during our discussions, Nomvuyo and I would often say to her, just tell me again what it is that you want to achieve. Just tell me again what it is that you want people to take away, and what is it that you are trying to do. And I mean, her story is beautiful. The lessons are amazing. But I'll never forget, there was one particular session that we had, a coaching session, where you said to me, I just want people to realize the potential they have to transform poverty into prosperity. I said, yes, but how do they do it? And I remember you said to me, there's this energy that, especially females, I think initially you wanted to write a book just for women. Yeah, about the oil lady, yes. And so you would say something like, there's this maternal energy that women possess. It's like It's what drives the mother to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start baking amagwinya and then finding a corner that she turns into her little store and has the people that are taking the first taxi buy that magwinya. It's what drives that woman to wake up and sit and knit for 3 days so that she's got socks or doilies to sell and she can put her kids through university. And when you said that, I said to you, I've never heard somebody speak about it that way. And so I said, okay, so that maternal energy, why don't you just coin your own word and let's call it maternergy. And so it started as maternergy. And then I realized, but actually, this message is not just for women. This message is not just for mothers. This is actually a message that resonates so much with the desire you have to see Africa prosper. And so we then included the Africa component of it. And we said, let's create a new word. Let's create a global word. And what is stopping you from trademarking your own word and it becoming a global concept that I honestly believe in the future, I believe this concept and this word is going to be studied at universities across the world. I believe people are going to be writing papers on it. I believe I can see lecturers standing up in universities and teaching entrepreneurs and teaching business owners and business people and just Africans as a whole about this concept of Afriternergy that has the power to transform their poverty into prosperity. And so that really was how we came up with that. And I think I just saw the potential in this message. And I believe that why do we only believe and why do we only allow voices from the West and from the first world countries to rise up and be concepts that we subscribe to? And so for me, I saw here's an opportunity for somebody who looks like us, who sounds like us, to become a global voice that transforms poverty in our continent and in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for understanding and allowing me the space. You unleashed it inside of me. Thank you so much. We are sitting at table or on a sofa with other people here. They came here because they want to build their own brands. And I think your story is your gift. Storytelling. It's a positioning gift. You are able to take a story and position it. That's what I think. So tell us, what would you advise in terms of their own brands and their own story?
Got you. So I think we've already touched on it quite a bit in this discussion already. You cannot go wrong if you start with purpose. And so it's so important to start with what is it that is your personal purpose? And then once you discover that, I feel like you need to now move into the next stage, which becomes clarity. And so when we talk about clarity, you need to now define who are you speaking to? All right. As a brand, who are you speaking to? And if you're speaking to everybody, you're probably speaking to nobody. All right. And so you have a greater chance of success as a brand if you are able to really clearly define who you would like to speak to. Then you need to also clearly define what do you want to say. All right. And so you don't have to be the voice for everything. You don't have to be the poster child for every message. You simply need to choose what is it that you specifically want to say to a specific person. All right. And listen to this. I'm not even saying a specific audience. I'm saying a specific person. If you are able to dive deep and niche down as far as the person, you are just so much more impactful, and then the next question then becomes, who do you want to serve? So now that you know what you want to say, you know what it is that you who you want to speak to, who do you want to serve, and how do you want to serve them? All right. And so really it comes down to making a couple of choices. I think as a brand, there are going to be times where you are going to have to be able to say no to certain things. You're going to have to be able to choose. You are going to have to be able to decide which of these balls do you want to juggle right now. I think as entrepreneurs, so many of us can do so many different things, right? And what happens is we end up not being effective at all of those things because we're doing so many, right? And so very, very important that choose and then run with it. I think it's also one of the things that I personally do is I don't chase trends. I chase alignment. All right. Because trends come and go, but alignment will outlive trends. And so very, very important. Don't chase the trend. It might be popular now, but is it sustainable? Is there longevity in what it is that you are trying to do? And you can experience so much more impact by not chasing the trend and rather chasing alignment.
Oh, I love that. I could argue there. I could argue there. Okay.
I just wanted to say, how inspired I was just listening to the both of you, and picked up a couple of things that a few comments I want to make, as well as some questions. I remember Steve Jobs, one of his big quotes, famous quotes is, strategy and success is knowing when to say no, and saying no because you are literally saying yes to your overall purpose. So thanks again for reminding us. But a few years ago, I made a decision that I knew has always aligned with my purpose, and that is to come back to the township and really to help and contribute, and again, to plant those trees that I know I may not get the opportunity to sit under. So I commend you guys to look within deep and make those decisions. They may be challenging, but really the fulfillment that comes with it, I think is by far the most rewarding thing one can achieve and to really experience by themselves. So thank you for that conversation. Darren, great. Thank you. Darren, if you could speak to Jabu's question, please tell us a little bit more about chasing alignment versus chasing trends.
Absolutely. I've been giving it some thought. I think it really starts with self-awareness, so realizing, okay, what is it that I bring? What is my value that I bring? And so when you know what it is that you do, what you are uniquely known for and uniquely created for, it really helps you to create that alignment. And so sometimes it also comes down to asking yourself, like, what impact moves me? Like, yes, I can make an impact in various areas, but what impact really, really moves me? Or what experience shaped me that I know is where the strength or the gold in my purpose lies? And then it's also about, like, how does that now translate into value for others? And so to maybe just break it down a little bit more practically. So we all know it's so trendy to be a coach. It's so trendy to be a life coach, right? And so what do we see? We see life coaches popping up all over the show, and we see life coaching training programs popping up all over the show. And then we have all of these people who are now a life coach, but they are life coaches with no clients, life coaches who are broke, life coaches who are struggling, life coaches who can't articulate who they serve and what transformation they can bring for their client. All right. And so that is chasing the trend. But if you now start chasing alignment, now all right, so as a coach, I know that I am gifted with strategy when it comes to books. I am gifted with helping people tell their stories. I'm gifted with helping people inspire others to take action. So that is now the alignment. And so that's why I am not a finance coach. I'm not a life coach that's going to help you lose weight. I am going to be most effective as a coach who helps you to turn your message into a book. All right. And so as a result, I don't chase the trend. I'm not a life coach for everybody. I'm not a coach for everybody. I am a coach to aspiring authors, first-time authors, or authors who want to move into becoming profitable authors. And so that alignment guides me and makes me much more effective. I hope that answers your question. But really, 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 as a brand, and once you are aligned to your purpose, again, your provision lies there as well. And so when the platforms are not opening up and when there are roadblocks, create your own platforms. You simply need to have clarity and then be visible. With visibility to your audience, I promise you, you will be able to get to the point where you are still able to impact the people that you desire to serve, and they will pay you. All right. I have been a coach for literally almost 10 years, and not once have I been asked for an accreditation. There's not a single author who we've published who's asked me if I've studied publishing. You know what I'm saying? And I can assure you, when you put an author who was published through Inspired Publishing and an author who has gone on their own or used some of the smaller ones, it is chalk and cheese. All right, simply because I was able to tap into the gift that I believe I have and speak to the right people. And so I don't serve everybody, but the people I serve well, and they pay me for the service that I render and that I do for them. And so as much as we want the accreditations, go for it. If it happens, by all means, but don't allow it to stop you. Don't allow it to debilitate you and not get you to move forward. And so I just want to encourage you with that. I've paid people 30 and 50,000 rand to write me accreditations and to handle the process for me, and they've run away with my money, and I thought it was the end of us. But I just always come back to what's in my hand and what can I do. Here's something interesting I want to share. Eventually what happens is your brand becomes so powerful that people can't ignore it. We've got adverts running this week because I'm hosting a webinar tomorrow for authors. And yesterday somebody commented and said, I've never thought about writing or publishing a book, but this advert is so inspiring. It makes me question whether even I should be working on a book. Okay. And so that is really just the power of when you have clarity and when you are able to express and live out your purpose and your brand. Right. So I just wanted to encourage you with that, Jabu. Hope it helps.
As we prepare to wrap up, I just want to remind everyone that you are already a brand, right? Yeah. People already sense who you are, what you do. They already have perceptions of how you interact with them, what kind of value you already provide. So you are already a brand. Don't think that it hasn't started. What needs to start, I guess, is the intentionality of it all. The question is, are you intentional in shaping that brand to reflect your purpose in life, right? And for me, I want to go back also to what Sis Nomvuyo said, which is, what has God prepared you to do, to fulfill in today's world, right? In helping others, in contributing to society, and take what you've learned today, start living it as if the world is waiting for you and your unique gift, because we are, at the end of the day. We are waiting for your gift, and live it in such a way that it is truly your platform to do so and to fulfill it. Once again, thank you for all of you for being here.
I think just 2 or 3 things I want to quickly wrap up the part on branding. And so when you build a brand, a great brand does really 3 things. It reveals, it resonates, and then it repeats. All right. And so focus on that. Make sure that your brand resonates with people. Make sure it reveals who you are and what you're trying to do. And then make sure it's something that people want to repeat. All right. And that makes your brand sustainable. Also, when it comes to a great brands are emotionally sticky. Okay. So they just, they make you feel some type of way and they stick with you. All right. And so use that when you are building your brand. How can you make your brand emotionally sticky? But I think above all, the final thought I'd like to leave with you is that be human first and then be an expert second. Right, because people are looking for that humanity. And so my final closing words is a quote I developed when I was in a really low point in my life, and this will be my final statement, and then I'll be quiet. It's a quote that I developed, and it says, "Don't ever allow anyone to tell you that you're not good enough. And even if they say it, refuse to believe it."
Please say it again. Please say it again.
Don't ever allow anyone to tell you that you're not good enough. And even if they say it, refuse to believe it, right? Because you still can transcend what anybody else says and believes about you. And you've got this. You can do it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Darren. That was
Amen.
an
That
amazing
is awesome.
piece to end with. Sis Nomvuyo, your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts basically maybe echo what KK has said. You are equipped already. You already are equipped. God has given, there is this scripture that says, God has already given us everything we need for life and godliness. It already is. You already have the oil. It is just the work that you need to do. Be patient. Be patient. And just a reminder to say, sometimes we fail because we are expecting things to happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. Be patient. There's a lot of trial and error. But let me remind you of something, that we plant the seeds. It is God who makes those seeds to grow. We plant. So keep planting the seed, but it is God who will make them grow. And prosper where you are called. That is my passionate plea. Prosper wherever God has called you.
If you are ready to release the greatness God has placed within you, and you are willing to live your purpose and help Africans prosper intentionally and impactfully, then you are at the right place. Catch Afriternergy, the transformative, purpose-driven energy of Africa that empowers you and I to prosper where God has called us.